Hi everybody, I'm TC and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at this little beauty. Yes, it's a Sapphire Radeon RX 460 Nitro 4GB. Currently retailing at CEX here in the UK for 25 quid. Yeah, for the price of not quite 4 Big Mac meals, you can have this GPU. So what is the Sapphire Radeon RX 460 Nitro 4GB? Well, it's a budget AMD GPU from mid-2016. It has 4GB of DDR5 on a 128-bit wide bus. It consumes under 75 watts of power, so it doesn't really need a power connector, but as this is the Nitro edition, it does come with a 6-pin power connector. I believe the idea is to allow the GPU a little bit more headroom for overclocking, which we'll probably have a look at a little bit later. Now, if the 128-bit memory bus wasn't an indication that this was a budget card, it also has only 8 lanes of PCIe version 3 connected. So this is going to be quite a step down in performance compared to its big brother, the RX 470. And as any YouTuber will tell you, the RX 470 and the RX 570 are pretty much the same card, so we know what those perform like. Now, looking at this video, you can see it's not a bad looking card. It's not the most prettiest card I've got, but it's not bad. It's got a twin fan design, which you know I love. And you'll notice on the back there's a Nitro logo carved out of the PCB, and that is also illuminated by green LEDs when powered on, which is actually a really nice touch for a budget card. Now, one thing I always do with any second-hand GPU I purchase, which in fairness is every GPU I purchase, and that's replace the thermal paste and sometimes the thermal pans if needed. So here's some sped up footage of me doing that to this card. As you can see, this is a fairly good card to work with. It's nice and simple. There's just 4 screws on the back holding the main heatsinking, and a few more screws holding some ancillaries. For those interested, the screwdriver I'm using here is called a Wow Stick. Shout out in the comments if you want a link. It's not bad for a job like this, but you got to be aware that you can't put too much torque through it. Right, that's everything disassembled. Now we're going to get our trusty IPA out. No, not the drinking kind of IPA. And we're going to give it a good clean with some cotton wool buds here. Usually that's to take the fine detail, and a lot of the time I just use simple toilet paper to go and get most of the thermal paste off. And there's our GPU looking nice and shiny now. And now to move on to the big heatsink there. And yeah, as I said, just using the plain old toilet paper to go and get that thermal paste off, because it's pretty easy to come off at this stage, and we use a cotton wool bud here just to do the fine detail, and that's going to be lovely and clean. Okay, let's go get it all back together. As you can see here, we're all ready to put everything back together. I've put new thermal pads on. Even though the old ones were fully intact, they were looking somewhat oily, which is one of the situations in which they should be replaced. Well, I'm going to start by putting that small heatsink on. I think that's for the VRAs. Shout out in the comments if I'm mistaken there. Now we're going to put thermal paste on the main GPU. A nice cross ensures the best coverage. I'll put a link in the description for a great video demonstrating optimal thermal paste coverage patterns. And now the main heatsink is back on. Time to put the remaining screws in for the plastic fan assembly. And all back together again. Nice. Let's see how it performs. As always, we're running KUbuntu 2404. As such, we don't need to faff around with finding drivers. We already have the best drivers built into the kernel. And of course, with hardware ray tracing emulation for titles such as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. The PC we're using is the new budget gaming build from the previous video, a Ryzen 3 3100 with 16GB of DDR4. You'll notice I've also got an overclocking tool on the screen there, and we'll go look at that a little bit later in the video. Let's start with The Witcher 3 Enhanced. I think there's a griffin in White Orchard that needs some Witcher-based attention. I've put the settings on the screen now, and as you can see, it's our usual settings. However, the resolution is now at 720p instead of 1080p. I did initially start recording at 1080p, but it's the FPS is just too bad with this card. 720p looks a tad fuzzier than we're used to, true, but it is quite playable, with our average coming in at 41 FPS, which is above my magic threshold of 40 FPS equals playable. We are of course running on high settings, so there is some potential for some more FPS if we drop the settings to low. Let's check out Red Dead Redemption 2 now. Much like The Witcher 3, we're using our usual settings, which should be on the screen in front of you now, but also, much like The Witcher 3, at 720p, because 1080 was simply unplayable with this card. I'm of course showing the last scene from the benchmark as always, where we see Arthur up to his old shenanigans in Saint-Denis. And when I finish talking, you'll see the average FPS will be 41, which despite the slight fuzziness from the resolution drop, is actually quite playable. And now on to Cyberpunk 2077. As usual, the benchmark is on the screen, and we are using the medium preset. Unlike the previous two games, we are forced into 720p, as 1080 is just not getting on with this card. As you'll see at the end when I stop rambling, the average FPS will be 42. However, you'll also notice in some scenes, particularly the beginning one there, we're into the low 30s. So in a real world situation, dropping the graphics preset down to low or doing some manual tweaking may be required to actually get the most out of this gameplay. And now let's move on to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Yeah, it runs. No, it does not run well. I mean, it was never going to run well, but oh boy is it bad. We're at 720p with everything on low. Using the native resolution scaling, we get around 16 to 17 FPS, as you can see here. Now, if we switch to FSR, and that's now on the screen, you'll see we get to the dizzying highs of 19 FPS. Whoa. Either way you slice it, Indiana Jones is just not playable. Even for an old school gamer like myself, who's quite used to low FPS, this is painful. Let's move on to Space Marine 2. Now, once again, 1080p is just out of the question, so let's just go straight in with the 720p video. Now, we're on the battle barge here, and I thought, we're on the battle barge and the FPS is in the mid-30s. This doesn't bode well. But actually, if we fast forward a little bit, once we're into a mission, it turned out to be a lot more playable. We're seeing an average of 37 FPS, which is not great, I grant you, but if we look at the frame graph, it is very smooth, so this is quite a stable FPS. And I did play this for a reasonable while during testing, there's a good half an hour, 40 minutes here. Given we're not in the most populated area in this mission, the frame rate may drop a bit. But Space Marine 2, you could actually turn on FSR frame gen. It is natively supported here in the game. I'm not doing that right now. We're just measuring traditional FPS in this video. But this is an option, and it will make this a lot more playable in single player. And I will be doing a video on frame gen very soon. So for now, I think you could get away with playing Space Marine 2 with this card. Over to GTA 5 now, running the Enhanced Edition, and we can actually run this game at 1080p with a reasonable frame rate. As usual, we're using the minimum settings again with FSR on quality. Settings are on screen right now. Now, clearly this card is much happier with games of this era, even the enhanced graphic version like this, because, looking through it, the FPS is hovering around the 60s, which is really quite great. For £25 GPU, I'm really impressed. On to Rise of the Tomb Raider now. Much like GTA 5, this is an older game. Unlike GTA 5, this doesn't have an enhanced edition of any kind. So, as always, we're running at 1080p on high details. We're running the built-in benchmark here, and as you'll see when I eventually stop rambling, we will have managed an average of 46 FPS. That's a tad lower than I was expecting considering the GTA 5 average FPS, but it's still totally playable and completely respectable, especially considering this graphics card is cheaper than 5 pints of beer. Okay, let's try something a little bit more jovial now. Let's do a bit of overclocking. As you'll see, here we are at the desktop, and I've got NVTop open, BTop open, and LACT, which is a GPU overclocking tool in Linux. Other tools are, of course, available. Now, with overclocking anything, the key is to start low, slowly increase until you start hitting issues, then back off a little and do some stability testing. But we're not going to be anywhere near as cautious here. We're just going to charge straight in, full bull in the china shop style. So let's go and increase the max power envelope here. I believe this is just the potential max the card's allowed to draw. It'll never get anywhere near that wattage, but we'll put it to the max anyway. And then we want to adjust the P7 core clock. We're not really interested in adjusting any clocks for any other P states. Just P7 is the maximum for this card, and it's the one that will be hit during gaming. We can also whack up the core voltage here too. Now, a lot of people will tell you undervolting these cards is the thing to do, but we're not here to play nice. This card does have a very good cooler on it, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be able to take the heat. We can increase the max speed of the VRAM here as well. Now, previously off camera, I found that 1800 megahertz work just fine in games, but it does cause some graphics glitches when not gaming, which you will see start to appear right now. Yeah, it's very odd. I don't know why it does that. It's quite possible I've actually damaged this card during the overclocking experiment. So be warned, if you're anyway concerned about damaging your hardware, maybe don't try this at home. Okay, right, let's push this card along and we'll see if we get any more FPS. I'm going to do multiple iterations here, so let's go. Oh, I'm using Rise of the Tomb Raider as our test game because we got pretty decent FPS in there. It's quite an old game, so the card has maybe a chance of getting slightly more out of it, but it also has a nice built-in benchmark too, and we can measure the results very quickly because of that. Okay. First, let's start out. We're starting at 1279 and we've got a total of 46.77 FPS. All right, let's go 1285 for a total of 4683. Now 1290 and a total of 4642. And now we're running 1300 megahertz. And as you can see, we got 4697. And now we're running 1310 megahertz. And 4663, and now we're running 1320 megahertz, and we got 4717, and now 1330 megahertz, and 4722, and then 40 megahertz for 4784, and finally just going crazy 1360 megahertz. And oh, it started glitching. Oh, that's not looking good. That's not good. And crash and burn. Oh, the GPU fans went crazy just then, and now the login screens appeared. Yep, I think we can definitely say we reached the limit of what we can do with that card. And what did we actually achieve? Approximately 1 FPS more. Wow, what a lot of effort for virtually no gain. I guess this card is what it is. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're strapped for cash, then this might make a passable GPU. Certainly if you're only interested in older games and you don't mind gaming in a lower resolution with the newer ones. However, if you've a bit more budget, there are definitely better cards out there. Stick around for the next video where we're going to be looking at something quite exciting. We're going to be looking at frame gen technology, both built-in such as FSR3 and using lossless scaling, which is, yeah, a very interesting little app. The results may surprise you. They certainly surprised me. It only remains for me to say thank you so much for watching, and come back and join me, TC, for another ramble very soon.